Today's episode of DRL is brought to you by Hella Cocktail Company. My guests don't just come to DRL for me. They also come for the cocktails. Luckily, my friends at Hella Cocktail Company have my back. These guys make amazing mixes, from Bloody Mary to Margarita to Moscow Mule. They also make cocktail bitters, my secret ingredient, and now yours too. It's easy to feel like the best bartender in town when every bottle comes with a simple recipe on it. Hella Cocktail Company, bold flavor, real ingredients, hospitality. Mixing it up since 2011. Shop the collection on Amazon Prime or use code DRL online at hellacocktail.co for free shipping. Hello, my lovely listeners. Welcome back to another episode of DRL, where we're talking everything dating, relationships, and love. I'm your host, Tanisha Wood. So today I'm here with Dillion and Venza and Mari, and I'm going to call you guys a throuple. I don't know if that's what you prefer to be called or not.
We'll run with it, yeah.
What is the correct term?
Preferably tribe. We are a tribe.
We are a tribe.
Mm-hmm. But throuple's cute.
Okay. So how did your tribe come to be?
Okay, so Venza and I met. Well, we started circling each other before we really met. So like 10 years ago, we met for like 5 minutes at a real estate investment college. We only put that back together like 2 years later when we actually really started connecting. We're like, oh wow, we had already met. But we had been in relationships like this, where there's one man, multiple women, for quite some time prior to meeting each other. I had already realized that this was the way that I was going to have my relationships, and so did Venza.
Yeah, my first triad or throuple experience was when I was 16. I was in a triad relationship for 4 years.
At 16?
At 16, yeah.
What made you think like that at such a young age, or want to do that at 16?
Well, I contribute a lot of my choice that I made was that I wasn't raised in a conventional way, and I wasn't really raised with religion and like an overarching religion like some people do, Christianity or Catholicism. And I also didn't have a whole lot of influence from my parents or my grandparents on sexuality. And so I think I was just allowed to make up what was comfortable for me. Like no one told me you're supposed to be straight or you're supposed to like guys or you're supposed to like girls. So I didn't really get any coaching on that. And then I also moved out of the house at a very young age when I was 16 because it wasn't necessarily a conscious choice that I made. It was just, I found myself living with my boyfriend at the time, and there was a girl that lived behind him, and it just kind of happened and unfolded naturally. He had met her first and then introduced her and I was a little resistant to her at first, definitely. And then I realized some things about myself, and how I was like reacting and how there was going to be a lot of value for me to develop a relationship with her. And so the relationship developed between the three of us, but there was no term of polyamory or anything like that. I mean, we're talking about like 1998 at that point in time. So this was like a long time before there was any terms or Google searches or anything like that.
So at that age, did you guys tell people, or was it sort of a secret, or like were you pretty open about it?
I've always been really open with my family. On everything. And so the first time that I brought my boyfriend and girlfriend home to my mom's and we all stayed in the same bed, she was like, what's going on? And is this a phase? And, it wasn't until many, many years later where my mom actually realized like, okay, this isn't just a phase that my daughter is going through, and this is a lifestyle choice that she's making.
Wow. That's awesome though that you had a supportive enough family that didn't sort of steer you in one direction or the other, but let you make your own decisions about like who you wanted to be. So you were already on the mode of, I know what I want and it's not necessarily conventional. How did you get to that place?
When I was growing up, I always had this example of monogamy, from my parents and from the small town that I grew up in. It just seemed to me like everybody around me always just assumed what a relationship was and didn't realize that a relationship is a set of agreements. And a lot of people just go off of some implicit agreement of what a relationship is, and it's not explicitly stated were agreed upon. And so each person in the relationship then kind of relies on what they think a relationship is without defining, right? So I always thought whatever girl I was with, that we had the exact same definition of it. And I remember...
at that point, the definition was monogamy.
Yeah, well, that of course a relationship is between a man and a woman is what I always thought. I wasn't very good with girls when I was like early in high school. And then I started to figure it out. I found out that I still wanted other girls. I'm not a liar, I'm not good at it, but I did find that all of a sudden I would make a bad decision and go with another girl while I had a girlfriend. So I'd go back to my girlfriend and say, I'm so sorry. This happened. And then she'd break up with me. I don't get any points for having come clean.
Honesty after the fact.
So after a certain number of relationships, I decided, okay, I was going to not have super in-depth relationships, and I'll just tell the girls that I'm looking at dating, hey, look, I like to date other girls, and I would find relationships where the girl that I was wanting to date would make an agreement with her mind that her heart couldn't keep. And so I was caught in this place where I was thinking, well, I really find a lot of value from like deep relationships. And at the same time, I really find a lot of value from having new relationships and variety. And so I started doing a bunch of personal development, and I realized, well, why not just design it in a way that would satisfy all those things? And so I thought, wait, well, if I date bisexual girls and then they want girls too, then this is going to be something that we do together. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as I switched that thing in my mind where I was like, why not just be who I am, figure out what I like and date within my species. As soon as that happened, the come from that I started to have with girls, where before I thought this was just impossible to have threesomes or to have, multiple female lovers that like each other, all of a sudden that became a huge value proposition, and I wasn't willing to sacrifice that part of me, made it so that girls were more interested in being with me on that level.
I think they're probably at that point more interested in the honesty. How old were you at that point when you sort of started having...
Mid-20s.
Yeah, I think what a lot of women at that age are used to is sort of the thing you were doing before, where it was, oh, I'm sorry I did this, and they're lying to you. And I think what was probably refreshing was he's actually just being upfront about what he wants. Yeah. And that's always my advice to men is you can want what you want and possibly have what you want, but don't lie to people, because you're never going to get it that way. You'd be surprised at the things that people will do when you just are upfront and honest, like, this is what I want. And then they have the option to say, I'm on board or I'm not.
Your biggest ability to negotiate anything, whether it's relationships or even business deals, is always in the first 10 minutes. So, as soon as possible that it can be known that I only date bisexual women, or that I have a wife and a fiance, the better.
Oh, by the way, congratulations. I should have mentioned this before, but you guys are now engaged.
We are? Yes.
Okay, real
quick. Want to show her the ring?
Yes. Were you super surprised, by the way? Or were you sort of expecting it?
So I don't know about slightly expecting it and slightly hopeful, I think.
Or let's rewind a little bit.
Okay.
So when you met them, where were you at that point in life? Like, how did that meeting occur?
So I had actually been out of a relationship for about a year, and I was just at a place where I was I always wanted to have the experience of not just going from my mom's house, but living on my own, taking care of myself, and just doing me, you know what I mean? And I ended up meeting a guy and moving to Las Vegas, and things kind of didn't go with the plan that I was going for. As the relationship ended, I realized I still wanted that. So I was actually in a really incredible space in life. I was living in my own place by myself with my dog. I just had everything designed the way I exactly wanted. And I was really just great. Do you ever get that point in life where everything is just so perfect? Right. And it's well, what next? And these two spotted me at EDC, so that was next.
Where were you at, mentally, in terms of this couple is approaching me?
My background, I suppose, a little bit is my mother's British. She did not raise us kind of similar to Venza, also like not with religion, not with judgment. My father was African American, my mother's Caucasian, and we lived in a very small town that wasn't very happy about their relationship. Very judgmental town in some ways, and I think my parents just raised me to do as I please and as I feel is right for me. So I didn't get a conversation about like, oh, you need to marry a guy when you grow up and live in your little town. And I basically got an anatomy lesson and that was it, and you're on your way. So I was like, okay, so this is how babies work and we're done. Okay, so what about the rest of it? So I dated girls throughout high school. I didn't really have the conversation with my family, but I mean, like my sister and I were really close, so she always knew, but it wasn't really a conversation with my mother. I just kind of did what felt natural to me, and I was in a relationship for a number of years, and I found that show Sister Wives, and I was like, this looks cool. And it's something that I was trying to, kind of do in high school anyway. Like I always had girlfriends.
So you were hoping essentially at a certain point for a type of relationship.
Yes,
like this. Not
trying
just,
in some senses as well.
Wow.
With my ex, there was like, we should do this. Look, one could be cooking, one could be cuddling. Like this would be great.
When you say this though, were you thinking like, because I think a lot of people think about a three-way, right? Like I think a lot of people are like, oh, like I have a boyfriend, let's bring another girl in for a night and see how this works. But were you thinking about it in terms sexually or in terms of like an actual relationship? I would like to have three of us in a relationship.
Yeah, or more. I mean, I have always pictured myself being with a woman, and a lot of times you meet who you meet. So I was with a guy, and I also wanted to have more women in my life. So it wasn't just like, oh, let's have like a threesome on a Thursday night. It was like, no, like I want to have like a girlfriend, like who moves in with us, and we like, enjoy this life together, or two girlfriends, whatever it is.
So then when they approached you, when you guys met at that first CDC, you were already sort of there mentally. It wasn't like a shock to you, like, oh my God, what do they want?
No, I mean, I don't think I really got it at first. I don't know.
Well, I think you figured we were swingers, which we're not.
That was later, not that evening that I think you guys were swingers. I think like that. I think once I was like texting, I was like, "What's going on here? Like, what are these people up to?" But
what was the approach? Like, how did you guys approach her?
Okay, well, it was pretty cute. But before that happened, Dylan and I are walking by, and at the same time, we both see her, and we look at her for a second, and we're like mid-walk, and we turn to each other and say, "Did you see that girl?" Like literally, both of us, same time, and we're walking and like all the way around and back around. So Dylan approached her first.
Yeah, and I wouldn't just come up and just dance on any girl, but there was definitely a receptiveness.
Yeah, like Dylan just walked up to me, and I think it was just like his energy or something about this guy. Like I just completely like, I don't know, relaxed into the moment, and yeah, we just danced.
We meet a lot of girls, especially we were in a music group for a little while. And so we were constantly meeting tons and tons of girls. But there was something different about the meeting with Mari. And at the end of the night, Dylan and I were going home, and we were kind of looking at our notes and looking at some girls, information and phone numbers. Dylan was like, what was your favorite girl that we met tonight? And I didn't remember her name off the bat. And so I'm like scrolling. And I'm like, this one right here. And Dylan was like, is that the girl with she had buns? And I was like, yeah, that was her. And he's like, yeah, me too.
We've gone through different periods where we're really kind of looking for our mate. After we found Mari, we really kind of focused on the relationship between the three of us. But before that, we were definitely searching
for another girlfriend.
To build our tribe. Venza and I, and now Venza, me, and Mari, we have a tribe. We plan on being very well known in the relationship industry for uncovering some stuff about human nature that proliferates into the academic world. A lot of people are having a filter for monogamy when they do a relationship book.
You know why I think that a lot of people might be apprehensive about it, either the idea of it or the actual action of doing it? I think they just really don't know how it works. I think they're really like, logistically, how does this thing work? I think we have a blueprint for what a relationship looks like between a man and a woman. I think a lot of people also have a blueprint for what it looks like maybe to be in a gay or lesbian relationship. Yeah. But I think when there's more than two people is when people are like, why would you, you know what I'm saying? So I think and I hope in the world that we've come to a place now, it's 2020 almost, where I don't think people necessarily have a problem. I just think they don't know the how, if they were to even do it. There's sort of roles that everybody takes on, right? And some of those go by gender roles, some of those don't. But there's just roles where it's like, okay, he does this, I do this. Like, how did you, Mari, incorporate it into that? And how did that feel? Did that feel natural? Did you at any point feel like I'm kind of coming into a thing that's already there? You know what I mean? How did it feel coming into this?
Well, I would like to say Dylan still does the manly role of taking out the trash. No, it was very natural. It was something I always dreamed about, something that I always wanted in my life, and it was something I was always trying to create.
I guess for me, personally, I don't like being left out or the last person to the party, if you will. Like, did you in any way feel like they've already been doing this thing, and now I'm new to it? Like, how was that adjustment just from not necessarily being in a relationship with two other people, but just like they've had this established thing and now I'm coming in? Like, how did that make you feel? And what was the adjustment to that like?
Grateful, because you're coming into a relationship that's established. One that already had a design, one that like had agreements, something that you could step into and it would be like a breath of fresh air. Like, okay, this is what we're doing. This is what we all want. It was incredibly natural. Very much so.
So how long after you guys met did you actually become like part of the couple?
Well, I dragged my feet for about 2 weeks, maybe 3, before meeting them. And they've been like messaging me for, I think close to like 3 weeks of being like, do you want to like go do this? Would you like to come meet you for that? Like, and I was just like, I'm busy.
She's so busy.
I have family in town. I'm just so busy. But eventually Venza was like, hey, do you want to do coffee? So I kind of set it up like on my way to work. So it was like, I was like stopping in. Everybody, all of my like girls knew where it was. Like
so you'd be like, I gotta get to work in 10 minutes. So
like we've got 30 minutes to hang out and this is gonna be great. Like I had my uniform probably on so I could go straight to work. Like literally, like I was like, I'm just gonna like, it's just coffee.
Which turned into like a 17-hour date.
Yeah. I did make it to work, but we reconvened later and it really, just escalated from there.
I sat down, and as soon as I sat down and looked at Mari, I was like, all of a sudden so nervous. Like nervous because I was like, oh my God, she's so pretty. I didn't remember how like pretty she was, and like her hair was down, it was curly, and I absolutely loved curly hair.
How did you guys then go from that first meeting to in a relationship?
Well, I mean, I just like
very well.
I think that I just like laid it all out on the line, right, Mari? I was like so nervous, and I just kept talking. I think I talked the entire 30 minutes, and she just listened to me and smiled. And
a bunch of things that were like really like similar about us. Like we both had, I have like opal dermal piercings, and she had like an opal belly button ring. And just like as we continued to talk, there was just like a bunch of things. I was like, oh yeah, like I've done that, or this is similar. Like there was just a lot of synergy, I suppose.
Yeah.
But then did you say like, hey, I want you to be our girlfriend?
Oh no! I mean, slow down.
That was how much time passed?
We're actually not very quick to rush into titles.
We met in June. We had our first date July 4th or 3rd. July 3rd.
We have a lot of anniversaries.
We have a lot of anniversaries, and then September 18 or 19, depending on what coast we're on.
For me, both of you, for Mari and Venza, you guys came from families where things seemed pretty open and accepted, and there was not, they weren't trying to steer you in any direction. Yeah. It sounds like you were from a more traditional family. So when you came to them, I assume they know, when you came to them and said, hey,
don't tell my mom.
my wife and I have a girlfriend, or we're getting a girlfriend. Yeah. How did they react?
My dad hasn't said much about it, but I think he's proud of me. Pretty much any man in my lineage would look down and be like, yeah, good job, Dylan. But my mom, I remember like went on a vacation with her. She just wanted like, hey, Dylan, let's do like a weekend, just me and you. And I was living in Vegas. I had Venza and a girlfriend, and we all met up, and I was going off with my mom on this trip. And I made the mistake of telling my mom at the beginning of the trip, like in the beginning of the drive, like, like, oh, by the way, those are both my girlfriends. I'd been with Venza for quite some time, and she just thought that the girl that was with us was Venza's friend. And so the conversation would be like, oh, girlfriend. And then like 20 minutes later, so like the three of you guys are in a relationship. And like 20 minutes later, like, so you guys sleep in the same bed? Like, yeah. And then like it would like keep on going, and then like eventually it turned into like, why couldn't you just be gay? And
see, that's what I'm saying. People know how to handle it when it's more.
So, but my mom, I love my mom. She's amazing.
She is
great to
great.
Maureen and Venza, and she's very
so
supportive. But there was a period,
an adjustment period,
a little window where she was like, I don't know if I could deal with this, and I gave it the time, and then she loves it. She loves all this, so it's been great.
So how did she eventually turn it around? Like, how did she get over that hump of I don't know if I could deal with this?
Yeah. Well, I just didn't talk to her. And froze her out a little bit, and she was like, well, I'm like, yeah, this is my relationship structure. This is how I am. This is how I'm going to be. So, if you can't handle that, then you can't handle me. And and then she came back. It's like, well, I want a relationship with you. So I'm glad she did that. But I think that it's a very important part for the people out there that want to do this. It's kind of an all or nothing thing. I mean, there's a lot of guys that they want to have other girls, but they're not willing to say, I am a polygynous human in a polygynous species. And so because they don't have that come from, they're not aligned in their mind, body, and spirit, they're not set up to be able to have this type of relationship. And so I see a lot of especially powerful men, they get into relationships and they realize, oh my God, I picked the prettiest girl, I picked the most amazing woman, but I'm still attracted to other women. It's this travesty. I mean, you see, like, Tiger Woods made a $400 million bet that he could be monogamous. Couldn't do it. Lost $400 million. Jeff Bezos made a $38 billion bet that he could stay monogamous. Couldn't do it. We're not set up for that, especially the alpha males out there. And so a lot of these guys, it's really sad, what they turn to is they either destroy their relationships overtly, or they do it subvertively, right, behind the scenes, where they go and cheat on their women because they can't handle it. The one person that is the closest person to them in their lives, they should be building their empire, their legacy, everything with, becomes the person that they lie to the most, that they do the worst stuff to, and they go and cheat on them. It's wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong, and it's a travesty, and it's actually the norm. Like, why not just be congruent with yourself? Say what it is that you need in your life to be able to be happy. And there's this huge disparagement where guys feel like there's like this original sin, that they're wrong, that they can't be happy, that they're not set up to be happy, and it's because we've demonized and called it sexually immoral to be what our nature is.
Do you think that is every man's nature?
No, I think some guys are naturally gay, and I think that we're like lions. If you look at the lions, and Venza and I went to Africa together, and we spent about 3 weeks with the lions, and we watched them, and every single lion built into their code, pretty much, is designed to be the king of the pride. Okay, and that is their whole program for their whole life. Now, they might not achieve it.
I saw The Lion King.
Well,
you're so cute.
But that's their program, is to build a tribe of pride, and then to be the king of that pride. And if they fail, what will happen is maybe they, instead of having a whole pride, they have maybe they get one woman. That's their fallback position. They get one female lioness, and then if they're failing at that, they go off in pairs or off with the bachelors. And if they're failing at that, they're alone. They're alone, right? So their priority list of what they really want starts with being polygynous. And if they can't achieve that, they go for what they can get, And I think that's what happens to most men as they settle, thinking, oh, well, this is realistic, monogamy is realistic. And I think that our society has been designed around a paradigm of monogamy, because as we started to expand as a human species, we were starting to kill each other over women. And we started to bunch up in the urban centers. They had to start to say, okay, let's all make a truce and a compromise of each guy gets one woman, so we don't all kill each other over women. And that worked for a little while. And so we denied our nature so that we could expand and so that we could create societies. But now the societies have brainwashed us into thinking that something that we're doing is natural when it's truly not.
For some people, I think. Like, I do think that some men...
Yeah, like some guys are just naturally gay. I mean,
not just the gay ones, but I think that some people, monogamy is for them. Like, I do think some people, they're like, I just want to be with this one person. I sexually just desire this one person. I have the life I want with this one person. And then for others, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
You know? So I do think that, you know, it can all work.
There could be a guy out there like that. I mean, maybe one in a million. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the ratio is. Maybe it's 1 in 100. But you know, the thing is, like, let's just look at the numbers here. Okay, men are built to proliferate. We're built to make a lot of babies. Like, I've made 1 billion sperm today, and every single one of those little sperm bastards wants me to go and impregnate multiple women. And if we look at, like, you know, women are born with the number of eggs they're going to die with, save the one that they lose each month. If you were just going to really go for it, how many babies could you make in your lifetime? So 7 might be like a good number.
I mean, we could totally shoot for like 12. Why not?
I think it's, well, I mean, it really...
My grandma had 11.
Go, yeah. Grandma, see? 12.
Your grandma had 11? Mm-hmm. Okay.
On one side, my other grandma had 8.
Wow, that's amazing.
Go grandma.
So, I mean, I would say, like, I'd put it as an average of about 7. I think I could bang that out in one day, you know?
But, you know what? If she wasn't just with my grandfather, she probably could have had more, right? So if she were with other men, she could have probably had more children. Don't you think? So it wasn't just limited by her egg count. It was also limited by the fact that she was with this one man.
I think that it's harder for women that already have children with some other man to get additional men. So I don't know if I think that would cap out.
I mean, if we're thinking about this just on like a primal level, there's actually an evolutionary advantage for women also having multiple partners. There's like tribes in the Amazon where once a woman is pregnant, it's practice that she then goes and has sex with the other men in the tribe. And the reason is because then nobody is the father and everybody is the father. And then your child is given the traits or tools of the entire village. Meaning, if I think this is my kid, I'm going to teach him to hunt if I'm the best hunter. If I'm the best fisherman, I'm going to teach him how to also fish. That kid then is getting the entire village as a father versus like just one. So I think like it could work both ways from an evolutionary standpoint.
Yeah. Well,
and it's still practiced. Like, it's practiced currently.
I don't know. I wouldn't sign up for that tribe.
Why not?
That doesn't seem like a good deal. Because we're here to do some really cool stuff. We want to go places and do amazing things, you know. And what I found is that there's a structure that is very conducive to making that happen. That's where that structure is when you have a leader that can help make sure that the needs and desires and wants of everybody in the tribe happens. If you look at companies, if you look at a ship with one captain, it's a really good analogy for a relationship. Mm-hmm. You know, we have a harem ship. And if you had 2 captains on a ship, or if you had a whole tribe of captains on the ship and everybody was fighting which direction you go, it'd be like the Titanic, and you hit an iceberg and everybody die, or some of them would die. You know, I think that it's important to have the ability to go in the direction of your choosing.
Now, do you think it's the same to have not necessarily a captain, but maybe a common goal? right?
Oh yeah.
So
you gotta want the same things.
Right.
Yeah.
If we're on a ship and I'm not necessarily the captain and you're not the captain and nobody's really in charge, but we all know that we have the common and shared goal of, well, we're going north, then does there necessarily need to be a captain?
I used to race sailboats in Hawaii every week. Yeah, you need a captain on the boat.
Question. If one of you wanted to get another male partner, is that possible?
It's honestly not something I would be interested in. I often make a joke that I'm just bi for Dylan.
That you're what?
I'm just bi for Dylan. I prefer women, to be honest. And I believe Venza's,
Yeah.
Anyway, so.
Same.
And this is just what's right for us. You know, we're not sitting here being like, you have to do that. Everyone get on our ship. But it's like, this is what we believe is right for us. This is what we believe is right for a lot of people that are making really big mistakes out there.
But do you think it could work? I know you both said you don't desire additional men, but do you think that could work? Because I do believe with people like yourselves that aren't judgmental about, you know, how many people are in this relationship, or am I gay, am I straight, am I this or that? I do think it is easy to relate to energy, right? So like, what if you do meet somebody and you're like, yeah, he's a man, but like our energy and our vibe and everything is just clicking. Like, could that be a part of this? And what would that mean?
So, you know, relationships are defined by a set of agreements that you have that are predetermined agreements going into it. Relationships are really successful when people have predetermined agreements before they set forth in the relationship. In this tribe, absolutely not. That would never happen. That would be treason against our tribe. And of course, if Mari or I had the desire to go and be with another man, we could, but we would never come back to this home life. Period.
Like, why can't it be both? Because I'm all
It's just not part of this tribe. It's not part of this tribal structure. Like you said, in the Amazon, you know, that's part of their tribal structure as to how they relate to pregnancy and other men and all of that.
Right.
It's great. That's their tribe. This is our tribe. And we all agreed that and had a similar feeling. Like you said, like everyone has to, like, you know, if everyone's going in the same direction. We all agreed before entering into this relationship and entering into this union and then this union that wasn't something that we desired.
We want to have a tribe where we have a leader and we can use that to go places. That's our vehicle. That's our ship. That's what we're doing.
Is it possible that another woman could be added to this tribe?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Of course. There's been some interviewees.
Yeah.
Is there like is there a limit or?
I think an even number is really great. So I think a total of 4, total of 6, like somewhere in that range.
I was thinking about you guys this morning and I was like, well, you know what's really cool when they travel is then they can all sit in the same row. But then I'm like, what happens though when they sit in first class? Because there's only the 2.
Yeah. So that's
really
why,
yeah.
You know, I always felt like having like a legal marriage was like really silly, but I do see like a lot of value in it. So I do picture at some point like us adding another girl and I would be able to legally marry her in order to, you know, really combine all of us, you know, and I'll take same last Bracken name and it'd be really great, you know.
What do you guys think the biggest challenges are of a relationship structure like this?
You know, this kind of comes back to what we were talking about having a captain and one captain on the ship. I think where people struggle with having this type of dynamic is that if there isn't one predetermined leader of the relationship, of the person where the buck stops with them, whether it's finances or where we're going to live, anywhere we're going to go, there has to be one captain because the captain is going to say, I hear all of your opinions on everything and this is the direction we're going. Yeah. And like Dillion was saying earlier, it's really hard a lot of times for polyamorous people to become successful in their lives because the relationships around them take up so much of their time. Because it's all about, well, now you got to make this person happy and I got to make that person happy. And there's no one person to be like, this is the way we're going. I understand you. I understand you. I understand you. But we're going this way right now. Let's go. You know, and that's the value of the agreements that we have and the relationship that we have set up to get us to where we want to go is having that one person, Dillion, the captain, that's going to be like, okay, babies, this is where we're going to go.
So if there is a disagreement, it's overall, this is Dillion is the person that has the final say And so we just have to forget the disagreement?
Well, I issue the decision. For me, and here's a baseball analogy, I see like when the ball is hit into the outfield and you got the outfielders running towards it, there's got to be one person that can say, I got it, I got it, I got it. And if that doesn't happen, what does happen oftentimes is the two people that are going for the same ball, they hit each other and the ball hits the ground. I've seen that happen too many times. It's important that there's one person that can call the other person off. And I see this. I see it in your face here. You're like, well, I don't know about that. But the reality is, if there isn't, I find that there is a lack of ability to really compel forward action.
But Dylan, is that on all decisions, I am the de facto person?
It's not like I'm running around making
I'm not saying
decision.
I'm not saying you're a maniac. Like, no, we're not eating back tonight. I'm not saying that. But I think in most, I'm not going to say in most, in some, or at least my relationship and the way I prefer it, is that there are some things that my boyfriend is better at and I believe smarter at, and there are some things that are my areas that I am better at and I am smarter at. And so that's where the division really comes in. Are you two ever the ones that have the absolute on certain decisions based on just your expertise or your interest?
Well, thankfully, like Dylan's very, very logical. And so, he's not trying to say, hey, girls, you need to do the laundry this way, just as an example. Okay. Like he is, how do I say this?
I don't want to assert my decision-making authority.
Oh,
I don't.
No.
It's like
it's not like
what I prefer is that we all come to an agreement that's good for everybody.
Yeah.
The challenge is what I see oftentimes is people go to war against each other instead of saying, like, for me, my obligation is first to the tribe. My obligation is first to the tribe. I'm making decisions not for what's best for me. I'm making decisions for what makes the tribe successful. And I'm not organizing the agreements of our tribe in a way that splits up the empire that we're building. We are here to go places, to do things, to not be mired in the bullshit of disagreements and indecision. And that's what I see is the main problem in monogamous relationships. And so this is how we solve it. Like, in a company, you have a leader, somebody that can say, or like, Steve Jobs saying, we're going to build iPhones. That guy got kicked out for a while. Steve Jobs got kicked out.
Most of those companies have a board, and then the board has to vote, and they have to come to a decision by vote.
Yeah, well.
So even if they're the CEO, they still gotta listen to the board
And
imagine shareholders.
Imagine what Steve Jobs could have done if he didn't have the board constantly fighting. I'm not looking to create companies like that for that specific reason. How cool is it to be the king of your own castle? How cool is it to decide we are going to buy houses together, we raise our own money, and we do it.
So are you guys all like working together?
We all work together.
Now, how is the working dynamic?
For most of our businesses and stuff, what happens is I go in and I set the systems up. I am usually the one that's working on the next business expansion. Not that I have to do it. If the girls have great ideas and they want to bring them up, I'm more than happy to go in that direction. If they want to develop something, then they can too. But it usually ends up that I'm developing the thing, I put the process form together, and then Venza is like she whips people into shape. She's really freaking good. And Amari is learning the businesses, and we've been putting her on a lot of different things, and it's just amazing how she's fitting into the tribe and how we're all expanding and growing together. We write down our vision statements, we write down what we want to make happen, what we feel is going to make us happy in the future, and we figure out how to combine all those things together so we can all grow together.
Logistical question: do you all share a bank account? Is there one bank account?
We have a lot of bank accounts.
Yeah, we have a lot of bank accounts.
That's the first time I think anyone's asked that one. Normally we get to who sleeps in the middle?
I want to know that too. Bank accounts.
Oh, you're so cute. The primary bank account that we use for normal stuff is we all have a car on it.
I'm not going to get too deep into this, but you all sleep in the same bed?
Yeah.
Okay,
It's got to be a big
sleep
bed.
in the middle.
So it's mostly, we do a rotation sometimes.
Well, for a long time, it was just me. And then I felt like the girls, it seemed like they never saw each other. So I felt a little bit bad. And I was like, do you girls want to like switch? And so for a while, and we're like, yeah, we should try it. So we did me in the middle, then Venza in the middle, then me in the middle, and Mari in the middle, me in the middle. And that was how we always did it in Vegas when we lived together for a year before we moved out here to Puerto Rico.
Do you have a California king bed?
It's huge. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you guys ever have times where you specifically make time for just you two hanging out, or just you two hanging out, or just you two? Or is it sort of we're always all together?
I try to make time for like them two to hang out. For a long time, I'd always get them like their Christmas presents and their Valentine's gifts. Like I would like trick them into like date nights with just them. Like one time I blindfolded them. Like it's like 5 a.m. I was like, okay, guys, you're gonna have to wake up at 4. Everyone grab multiple layers. Here's your blindfolds. I like literally put them in the car, drove them out to a hot air balloon, was like, bye, like have fun. It's already full. Yeah. And so I think it's really important, you know, like they have a beautiful relationship and I love our beautiful relationship, but I also think it's really important to make sure like that they get to do like cool stuff together still, you know, it's like, this is where it started.
That's really sweet.
There's no like schedule though. You know
it's
what
not
I mean?
like she gets Tuesday at 9 or
Yeah.
like, it's not.
It's pretty organic.
It's very organic.
It's like, Venza's tired and Mari and I want to go to the movies, so we go together.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
But I love spending time with them individually. And I like making sure that they have girl time.
Are there ever any feelings of jealousy?
So here's the thing, and I get this question. I've always had this question, you know, being someone that's been in an alternative relationship for over 20 years now.
Right.
It's always something that's asked of me, and it's always the same thing. If you are a person that has any underlying self-worth or, negative self-talk going on, then it leaves room for jealousy to breed. It's like a breeding ground for jealousy. So I think the most important thing is to understand where jealousy comes from so that you can nip it in the bud before it blooms, so to speak. It's interesting that you asked this. So when I was 16 and I had this situation come up, where I could definitely tell that my boyfriend at the time was really attracted to this girl. And I had this moment in time where I was faced with a choice. Because I was feeling like, oh, maybe he likes her more, you know? And what I realized in that opportunity, or in that moment, is that there was something for me to learn about myself. And that was the opportunity that was being presented to me in a way of like, hey, you can like look at yourself and say, why am I feeling this way? Or you can make your life and his life and her life hell. Right. And I had a choice in that moment in time. And I think that it's always a choice. You know, as women, we're always going to feel a little insecure at times. Right. I would say a woman never feels 100% secure. So if I am having any insecurities come up, then I have to be real and identify those within me so that they don't turn into jealousy. Yeah. And so it's really about like the communication with your partners and be like, hey, this is the way I'm feeling, and it's probably really silly, but I just want to say it. And so then they have an awareness of like, oh, okay, like she's feeling this way and she might need an extra hug or, you know, an extra pat on the booty like Mari likes to do, like a little mood lift. You know? And so, you know, it's something that it's a practice. It's a practice for self-worth. And as long as you know where jealous feelings come from, the underlying self-worth of it, and you're able to handle it there, then it's not going to be a huge deal, you know, in your relationship.
I just am remembering Big Love. You remember the show?
I haven't seen it actually.
But essentially he has like one main wife that he starts off with, and then I think he ends up with like 3 wives as the show goes on. It does explore sort of these feelings of jealousy or like, you know, oh, because she's the first wife, she's getting all the say. And there's, you know, which is, I think, natural and normal to have those feelings. And so that's why I asked, because my reference of this is that show.
I mean, Mormons, it's a different kind of relationship structure than we have.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
All those girls, I feel bad for them being separate in their different houses, you know?
If I were to ever do something like this, I want my own house.
That's okay. And that's what would be right for you. And I have a sister, and we're very, very close in age. So there could be a lot of like jealousy or sister rivalry or whatever you want to call it. And growing up, I realized that my sister was really, really smart. Like, she could pick up anything, like straight A student, just really, really, really smart girl. And I was a little less on the side of being able to like pick things up. I'm dyslexic, and it took me a really long time to learn to read and just like stuff like that. And there was like definitely a feeling there of being like, oh, I'm not doing as good as her. Like, am I not as good as her? So as a kid, I chose to find something. I was like, what am I going to be good at? So I started doing dance, and I was really good at it. The reason I spent time in San Francisco, I took summer intensives. I went and studied with Lions Ballet. I've been accepted into Alvin Ailey. I just chose as a child, and maybe this was because I had such little direction, and, my parents were just like, okay, just, function, that I was able to just make this choice myself to not choose to feel bad about something, just like find something that I'm good at and be happy with the things that I'm doing, and there's a word, I believe it's compersion. It's like my favorite word. And it's like, I've never felt like, oh my God, I'm not getting enough attention. It's like, I have 2 partners. I have so much attention. There's always somebody to spend time with, to talk to. And when we add an additional girl, like that would be, there's even more love. Like I know that it's a natural emotion and that people do feel that way, but I don't think that you have to. You can choose to be like overwhelmed with compersion and love and like choose that. And so I think 4, 6, 10 is a great.
Will there be a hierarchy of sorts? Like, okay, you're the leader, you're the first wife, you're the second. Like, is there
a third? You're the ninth.
Will there be a hierarchy in any way?
Well, there's seniority. I mean, like, think about this. Like, if you show up into a company and you're new in there, you're calling less shots. We've already bought assets together. Maury coming in, and then the new girls coming in aren't going to come in and have control over what we do with our apartment buildings. Not right off the bat anyway. I mean, maybe as we train them into the family business and what the tribe does, then we can give them some of those abilities and responsibilities, but they got to earn that, and that comes with time.
I think that's one thing that's actually maybe been an adjustment for me is like how easily you guys just like allowed me to join into like the business side of things. Like I would never expect that like, oh, they've got 4 fourplexes and now these are partially mine or something like that. Was something that was an adjustment. Be like, oh, those are yours. Like those are things that you've worked on and like that's your properties. And it took a little bit of time for me to be like, oh, this is our Las Vegas home.
Now that you're married, it's all ours.
But so when Maury moved in, it was like she kept on saying your house, and be like our.
Yeah, that was and it was very unconscious. It was very unconscious. Like Dylan would be like, hey, it's our house. This is our pool. This is our coffee mug. Like silly stuff like that. So I think that is probably something that like took time for me. But I've also, my parents got a divorce, and watching them divide things, I think it was something that I always felt like, well, this is yours and this is mine and those are your curtains. This is my curtains. Like, it's just, I'm very I'm very logical about things like that, where it's like, well, this is what it is. That's your coffee mug. Like, I don't know. Like, that was just how I assume things. And they were just like, this is ours. This is ours.
Now you also, all of you are running another business in which you help and teach people how to make this sort of relationship work for them. How does that work?
Yeah, the main business is our real estate investing. So we have one consulting business that's a training company, and that's Modern Profits Academy. And so we're training people how to do Airbnb and luxury vacation rentals. And then a business that we've had for a number of years, and I was a dating coach before kind of going into the tribal structure, which is really kind of like empire building. That's around coaching powerful men, super affluent men to have multiple female lovers that like each other. It becomes easier if you're running off of the system. And so that's what we teach.
What's the system?
Yeah, you can check us out at our website.
Well, the system is the PhD program, Passive Harem Development. And we teach people how to be in a harem ship.
What would you say, without giving the whole thing away, we'll go to the website, but what would you say are the top 3 things one needs to know or keep in mind if they are embarking on a journey such as the one you guys have.
You got to own it. The leading cause of roadkill is indecision. Our whole first book, Love, You're Doing It Wrong, which is on Kindle and Audible, is dealing with the philosophy of understanding that we're a polygynous species. The main point of that book is to define love in a way that most people have never thought of it before. Because most people think of love as the exact same thing for men and for women. Mm-hmm. And how we think of it is that it's different, that we are different. As soon as I started to really live with this and really practice it and own it, is when my relationships started to become really successful. We're a polygynous species. We can decide that we want to be monogamous, and you got to, if that's what you want to do, if that's your decision, you're going to say, okay, I'm a polygynous species, but I'm going to decide to be in a monogamous relationship. You can do it, but you got to understand the context of where you're at, of what your nature is, so that you can account for it.
It's like on Dexter. Did you ever watch Dexter? Okay, so I just got into it.
I loved that show.
Well, Dexter was like a serial killer by nature, but he learned to live in a society as a normal person while still.
He's like a mortician or something, right?
He was like a blood guy.
Right.
He always investigated the crime scenes. He did the blood,
analyst.
but he would kill people that did things that were bad. So my point of that was he was a serial killer learning to live amongst regular people.
Yeah. So we're not like us being polygynous is not like being a serial killer.
You got real deep.
You have this nature, and if you want to do something specific, you would want to be in a relationship with one other person. You got to account for your nature in that. If you want to be with two other people, you got to account for your nature in that. If you want to have multiple guys and one girl, you could do it. You got to account for your nature in that.
And understanding what your needs are and being honest about them.
And create agreements with your partners and for yourself to actually live in your nature, whatever that looks like for you.
I think at the end of the day, it's just like figuring out who you are, being honest about that, and like you said, like creating a plan around that. Like I think relationships can look a million different ways, but just be honest with yourself and the people that you want to be in them with. And I think that's why marriage is failing. It's just people are lying about who they are and what they want.
Trying to fit in this one little box of like, where's my white picket fence, my gold watch, and my 2.5 kids, and I'm going to marry this one person. It's like, find what is right for you.
Yeah, that's not your box.
Yeah, it's not my box. It's never in my box. So I just hope that everyone can find their box.
Since this has been my lifestyle choice for so long, and consistently, I've had a lot of people ask different questions of how do you address this? How did your mom take it? How did your dad take it?
Right.
And, the jealousy thing, those types of questions. What I'm realizing and talking to more people about, how I operate naturally in the world is that a lot of the times, people have so many fears about how other people are going to judge them or how their family's going to reject them or, what do I do if I'm just crazy jealous one day? All of these things, they are so much bigger in your head. And I have learned so much about myself and I have stretched further than I think I would have had I chose a monogamous relationship, because I've been faced with a lot of different things that have taught me who I am and where I want to go and what I choose and what I don't choose. And I wouldn't be the person that I am today had I not chose this lifestyle path. And so for the people out there that are like, wow, this just seems so unachievable, that's just the constraint that you have in your mind that is unachievable. One of the sweetest things that my father always says to me every time I get off the phone, whether Dillion and Mari are present or not, he always says, I love you 3.
Aw, that's really cute.
3.
Yeah. I like that you guys are living in a very deliberate way, though. So whatever your choice is, I'm a big fan of. It is your choice. It is something you woke up and decided I wanted to do this, and you just weren't sort of coasting or going along or doing the next thing. It was a very deliberate choice. So I think that's great that you're living in your own truth and in your own purpose and making those deliberate choices. Tell people where they can reach out to you for your services and also your social media, and if they have any further questions.
For understanding how to make money in a really fun way, it's Modern Profits Academy. So modernprofits.academy is the web address. And you can go to modernpolygamy.com for the relationship stuff.
And we're Instagram folks here at DRL. That's where I communicate most. So what are your Instagrams?
Mari runs the Instagrams.
Yeah, we have quite a few. My personal is the Mari Rose. We've got the Venza, and we've got Jedi Dillion, along with the Army of Hotness and the Bomb Squad. So there's a few of all of those. Yeah.
Sorry, but it's the Bomb Squad Worldwide.
Oh, sorry. Bomb Squad Worldwide.
Got it.
The Bomb Squad Worldwide, we call our relationship the Bomb Squad. And that one is more like cute little relationship videos.
Yeah, that's like
it's like a
home life.
So you can really kind of see how we interact.
Okay, awesome. Thank you guys for coming on today.
Yes,
this was
thank
awesome.
you so much.
I really appreciate you making the time and like sharing your life and, opening up and letting people know that there's different stuff out there. So I love it and I appreciate it.
Thank you for holding the space.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you guys so much for joining me today. Please reach out to me at Tanisha Wood on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter and let me know what you think of today's show. And until next time, wish me love. Hello again, my lovely listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of DRL. If you like the show, be sure to go on iTunes and leave a rating and also write a review. And don't forget to share with your friends and tell them all about DRL. Thank you so much for supporting.